This is an adult podcast made by adults for adults. It's finally happened. Swade is completely done with Walter's sexual degen energy on this episode, and we realize Robosphere is our favorite French Revolution hero. This is Fake Film Fans.
Everybody, welcome to Fake Film Fans. I want to thank everyone for listening to the podcast. My name is Swade Best, and I am the truest fantasy boy.
My name is Walter, and I am that stain on that wall that should be food, right?
Right? Gotta be some
should
food.
Be, right?
But what is it really?
Not semen. Not
okay,
semen.
It's not semen.
It should be
Dude,
food.
bro, why do we gotta do this? Why do you gotta make the podcast like this? Why do the first thing we have to talk about be that?
Well, I like this stuff. That's the stuff that makes my nipples tingle.
Someone cancel Walter already. I mean, I'm just like, next episode, we're going to go the whole podcast without talking about dicks or semen. I hope you're ready.
I will say, if you want to cancel me on the podcast, you could bring that fucking whoever that guy's name from the Brother of My Mother podcast, and I'll cancel myself off that podcast.
Justin from My Brother and Me. No, next episode, no dick talk, no semen talk.
What's the benefits?
The benefits is that you rely on it too much as a humor.
It's not a humor thing. It's the thing that makes my brain, activate.
I have spoken. As the leader of this podcast, I've spoken.
All right, that's fine. I'll just talk about other things that make my nipples tingle.
Christ. I'm sorry, listeners.
And you don't know what that is at all.
I do.
That might even be worse.
Jesus Christ. I kind of want to talk about this movie I watched. I think we should just get right into it. Called Auntie Lee's Meat Pies. Have you seen it? I was kind of hoping I could do an episode on Auntie Lee's Meat Pie.
Oh yeah, that's true. We have not talked about Auntie Lee's Meat Pie. Cue my robot voice because I suck at getting into Swade's bits.
Alright, we're gonna try this again. I'm gonna pretend like I don't remember that we did that episode.
I know that's the fucking bit,
Yeah,
dude.
but then why are you... why wouldn't you say, oh, but Swade, we already did that episode?
Oh, what? Wow, Swade, we already did that episode.
You are so bad. You know what you are? You are the Grim Reaper of bits. I bring in a bit, I bring in a choice nug, a dank choice bit nug, and you're like...
Dude, I tried so hard.
I need a new host. Justin McElroy, please come on the podcast. Guaragura, please come on the podcast. I need a new host.
Do the bit. I think the listeners want to hear the bit again after it explained.
If you already explained it, it's too late.
No, I feel
okay, we'll do the bit. I'll do the bit again. Get ready, listeners. Two takes. Yeah. So I was thinking of talking a little bit, just getting right into it. Talking about a movie I watched. I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast before. Called Auntie Lee's Meat Pies.
Oh my God, Swade! What the fuck? We talked about that fucking film already last show.
Did we? What happened last show? I don't remember. Well, I was sick, so we didn't record an episode, right?
Oh my God, Swade! I am so mad right now. You were on Nyquil and forgot everything. What the fuck? How can you do this to me? Where?
You hurt me. You are a monster. My bits are like babies, and you're like the fucking, you're like the goddamn sleeping sickness, just like swooping in and killing them. Fucking monster, ruining my bits. My choice bits. What are we opening with? What's the opener?
I feel like it would just be fun to share some of the toys we used to play with as a young kid, 10 and below. So, one of the big toys I used to play with is the Mighty Beans.
Oh,
if you remember the
dude.
Mighty Beans when you were young.
Mighty Beans, we're on the scene. Mighty Beans, because now they're bumping and they're jumping. Fucking Walter, you just activated. My nipples are tingling now. Fucking, are you kidding me? Yeah, the Mighty Beans.
The Mighty Beans came out, I don't know, maybe when I was 8 years old. They sort of just took over my whole grade. And I played with them longer than everyone else, but you would buy them and collect them.
Can I tell you something? I think I played with them longer than everyone is going to be a running theme between you and I's relationship with toys.
That's good. Yeah, so let's actually explain the Mighty Beans for the people who don't know what they are.
They were capsule-shaped, little figures with no arms or legs, just like little capsules with a little guy, some kind of character printed on and it was like a heavy marble.
Metal ball bearing.
Yeah, a metal ball bearing that was the width of the capsule, but half the height. And so you could kind of like flip them, and they would like flip around as the marble went like down to the bottom and then back up and stuff like that.
That's how they advertised it. They would like show you how to like roll the beans down so they would flip down, and that's how they advertised how you can play them. They also did a lot of advertising or marketing to try to collect the whole collection. That was a big part of it too. But the way I played with them, I had probably 100 beans.
Jesus, dude.
And I would take the beans, make these really weird mini games where I would like drop like a handful of beans onto my hand and keep doing it until there was only one bean left, and that bean would win.
Okay.
And then they would go on to the next level. And then I would put my body into different distortions to like throw the beans and try to catch them, and whichever one I caught would move on to the next level.
Okay.
And there was always pitfalls in each level to move back down the level. And whenever a bean got to level, like the level I haven't created, I always got so excited because I could like think about my new body contortion to create this new level for the beans. Dude, I used to spend 4 hours or 5 hours on that shit. Just fucking...
And was this by yourself, or did other people play with you?
Just by myself.
Okay, cool.
And then I remember a lot of times when like all the beans like sunk down because my levels were too hard, I would like cheat a little and try to get a bean to like upgrade a level, but I just wanted them to move on to the next level so I could create a new one. Yeah, so that's how I mainly played the beans. How did you do it?
I mean, so I didn't really have Mighty Beans. I had like a few, but they weren't really my thing. And so I remember getting Mighty Beans from the dollar store.
Oh, interesting.
At that age, we were like right in between living to paycheck, kind of being okay financially. It wasn't until I got a little older that we really had to like batten down the hatches as far as funds for the family went. But we were still like, you know, we weren't millionaires or anything like that. And so when I got toys, it was almost always from the dollar store. And so when I'd be at the dollar store, it would be like, well, I could get this like sweet little like wizard knight, or I could get a Mighty Bean. And I would look at the Mighty Bean, and I would look at the Wizard Knight, and I would be like, obviously I need to go with the Wizard Knight. And so I didn't have many Mighty Beans. And I remember chewing on them when I did get them. My main toys growing up were action figures. And I still have quite a few of them. So like, of course, you know, like I've always been into like stories and stuff like that. So I would like tell stories with my action figures to myself. Most of the time they were like superhero nonsense or like comic book nonsense where the dudes would be fighting and like smashing into each other and stuff like that. And a lot of them were from the dollar store. And then I had like my really nice ones. Or I think once I got old enough to have an allowance, that was kind of what I spent my allowance on, was like action figures.
Could you give us an example of one of the really good stories that you created?
I mean, I can't remember that. I mean, that's just like, they weren't stories as much as they were fight scenes. So a lot of it was just like, oh, you've been defeated. Now I have to activate my superpower, my ultra technique. You know, a lot of it was like that. I don't remember it all that well. But I think one of the things that like stands out with my relationship with these action figures, and, you know, I'd save my money for like 3 weeks. Like at the comic store, they would like sell action figures, and I'd buy one of the really nice, like super articulated ones. I had a, I can't remember his name, but he was green and he had a like lizard mohawk. Doc Lizard, Doc Simpson.
Swade's gonna open his little cabinet of toys one day, and his Doc Stranger that he can't remember the name of is just gonna sit there, and he's gonna be like, "Was this face always so sad with tears and it's crying? What the fuck happened to this toy?"
But so one of the things I did with my toys was, because I would play with this neighborhood kid. His name was Josh. He lived next door. Cool dude. His family was like fundamentalist Christians, and so they were kind of like wary of my family, which were like weirdos. Like they were very straight-laced. So I didn't really interact with his family that much, but I interacted with him a good bit. And we have these really steep stairs where like if you were to fall down them, it would hurt. And we would play on the stairs, like our action figures. We'd like each be on a level. Josh would be on the top. I tended to be on the middle. And Rocky, my little brother, would be on the bottom. Because my little brother was super into cars, right? And one of the things we would do is we would put the action figures in cars and push them down the stairs. And the other thing I remember was the characters would always get this disease called fartinitis, where they would just like fart till they died. And like me and Josh thought that was like the funniest thing on planet Earth.
That is humor that I expect you to have.
Yeah. He's like, oh no, I'm farting. I can't stop. I'm dying. And then I live on a hill too, so eventually we upgraded to my little brother had this big toy dump truck that was like 1.5 feet like long, real big, and we could like load our action figures into that and then push it down from the top of the hill, and the truck would like roll and crash, and then we'd see like who survived the crash.
I think the story stuff is really common for kids. I remember I did that with a lot of toys. We had Bionicles that we used to play, so we did that a lot with them. But our big story one was my brother and me would like lay out these toys in a row 4 of each, and those would be their evolutions. So they would fight each other as normal people and then evolve into the next step. But we had to have them in order in a row so we knew which one would evolve into which one. And
that's pretty
my
cool.
favorite one was the one who his third stage was a big hammer, and I would take the hammer, just smash the toys on the floor, and my brother would get so mad at me for using that one because I have broken a bunch of toys by smashing them with the hammer.
Of course you would have. Hey, you know what's hilarious? You were not the little brother.
No, I'm the older brother.
Like, this is some little brother shit you were doing, but you were the older brother.
That's true. I was being the bully. Can I tell a story that is a little older than my 10-year-old self? My biggest creation of stories was when I was like 12 or something, up to like 15, 16. Before I would go to bed, I always would do this sort of imagination until I got sleepy to fall asleep. And it would just be me in my bed, like rolling around and fighting with swords, but like, you know, not actually fighting because I couldn't actually sit up.
Oh yeah, I did that a ton.
Yeah, so my story was that I always killed my character off, but my character always had a son who would take control of the next throne.
Why would you kill your character
It
off?
was like generational. Like I would like to die, and I would feel like swords in my heart and like spears and get killed, and then my son would run away, and my son 10 years later, I would like create a new story for my son to come back to the fortress. When I started masturbating, I started creating a bunch of female characters. And they would be the way I would masturbate while I was like from 14 to 16. Sometimes we would be having sex while we were doing swords, and then I would just quickly masturbate and then finish the story and I'd be ready for bed.
My imagination and sexuality tend not to go together. They go in places that I don't like.
Swade likes to get fucked by a giant spider who takes eggs into his belly button.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Fuck off. I hate spiders. As a child, I did it like as a way to self-soothe, like as a way to like deal with all the like bad noises in my brain at night. And then once I started smoking pot, it totally changed where like I would get high and I could imagine the most like insane battles and like stories going on in my brain. So I would just like smoke a bowl, and as I went to bed, I would just be like, man, it'd be like these like sweeping epics that I'd never remember in the morning. A lot of like, you know, like armies meeting on the battlefield and stuff like that. And I actually attribute some of that to my writing now. Like one of the like little story bits that I really liked was like a lone swordsman who only had a sword. He didn't have a shield and he had armor, and there was no way for him to ever like, there was no reason why he should keep winning, but like just his drive and his usually it was a revenge story. His revenge and his anger like kept him moving forward. And like when I do fantasy writing, which I don't do much, but when I do it, that is like my favorite character to write about, is like the man with the sword who like should not be moving forward but is. I also, with my action figures, again, you know, I didn't have a lot of expendable income, and so my action figures would break, and I started fixing them with hot glue, and it transitioned from fixing them to changing them. You know, the Thing from the Fantastic Four? He had weak legs, and so one of them broke off. I got like a fake plastic skeleton from the Goodwill, and I pulled off that skeleton's legs and like glued it on with hot glue, and so he had like this like skeleton leg, especially like when they started like not working as well as I'd like.
Dude, you were that kid from Toy Story.
It's Sid, yes. I've been called Sid plenty of times.
Wow.
What my favorite creation, and I still have it somewhere, I have to figure out where it is a Barbie. I bought like 4 Barbies from the dollar store, and I cut them all in half except for one, and I made like a centipede Barbie woman, like a centaur only with extra legs. And then I tried to like do something fun with her hair with hot glue, but it like got really gross, so I just cut her head off and replaced it with a skull, so it's like this centipede skull Barbie. Totally fun. And then sometimes I just did like emergency stuff, like I had a Daredevil action figure that's arm came off, and I just I pried it open and put the socket back in and hot glued it, and so his arm couldn't really move anymore. But
you remember my whale?
Yes, your stuffed whale.
I still own it. I still have a stuffed whale, so that's a very important toy to me. And that toy actually did do some adventures with me before I went to bed. There was one arc where I was like swimming on him. I put him in my armpit. Like, that whale was also part of the evolution game I used to play.
See, and I had a stuffed animal too, but for me, that was not like a toy I played with. That was like the security creature. That was like, oh no. No, that's not true. I played with him a little bit with my cousins, because we would do, oh my god, me and my cousins out in Vermont, we had this game hairdressing game with the stuffed animals, where like one of us would be the hairdresser and one of us would be like the stuffed animal, and like, I'm here for a haircut. And we thought it was so funny because my little brother would be the hairdresser, and he was like 3 years younger than me, so his like understanding of the world was like not where we were, so it was hilarious because he would come up with the craziest shit for haircuts.
Damn, these toys are so sad though. They're all fucking ruined by your creations.
No, we didn't actually give him haircuts. No, the only creations I have were my action figures, and they, like, I have a few that are still around. I would like glue nails to their back, and they became like a little more dangerous to play with because they were like, they had screws. So here are two. This is the Thing toy, right? And his leg has since broken, but he had like a... If you're seeing this on the camera, I'll see if I can't tweet these out.
Call out. Swade said he would tweet out so many different things, and he has not tweeted out.
I always forget. I will do this, I promise you. This one I'm pretty proud of. It's Zero. Okay, I think it's just Mega Man. But he had a big blaster cannon that I lost, so I just glued... I don't know what this is, like a door jammy thing onto it, but I kept the articulation so his arm could still move like normal. He just had like a sweet gun on it.
I think it's cool. I just think it's funny because it's definitely something I would be super scared of doing because I was so fucking, like, my toys have to be the same.
And did you play with a lot of dangerous stuff as a kid? Because I did.
No, I did not.
Because my dad has like a little, like, we have a carport filled with like all my dad's tools and stuff where he would like work on his motorcycle and stuff. I was basically allowed to mess with anything so long as it wasn't a power tool. So there was a lot of sawing, a lot of hot glue, and I burnt myself on the hot glue all the time. A lot of nails, a lot of hammers. I never hurt myself too bad with a saw. I cut myself once or twice with a saw, but I mean, I know my way around a tool set now. I can do like very basic construction.
Yeah, I did do that example of me taking a hammer and mashing a toy, but that's really rare. I'm much more of an orderly player. If I can remember this pretty clearly, I would take action figures and line them up in a circle, and then I would have a bunch of puzzles in the middle and take a piece.
Do you mean like puzzles that are like you put all the pieces in? Like a 100-piece puzzle?
Yeah, like a 500-piece puzzle. And I would take a piece that I think had potential in, and I would like give it to the action figure opposite to me, and they would pass it around, and one action figure would be in charge of washing it. One action figure would be in charge of making sure that puzzle was correct. If it wasn't, they would give it to the action figure that was responsible of saving that puzzle for future use.
You're fucking talking about me being spooky because I was fucking cutting apart toys. Meanwhile, it's like fucking serial killer time over at Walter's house. He's like, I have to have my fingers check each individual piece, and if they don't check it, then oh no, it's a problem. They go back to the murder zone. Like, no, that's some like fucking psychopath shit, dude.
I just have one more toy I'd like to share, actually. My mom, of course, never wanted us to get a Game Boy because my eyes were so shitty. But what me and my brother did instead was we created our own Game Boy. So we got these construction paper, the window, we opened it up so you could slit games into them. So you would slit a stack of paper, and each piece of paper was like a different...
A level or something?
Yeah, a level or like a story. I was more like creating storyboards, so it would look more like a manga storyboard or an anime storyboard.
My mom didn't let me have Game Boys either. She was, but it wasn't because of my eyes. She just thought video games were bad.
Your mom thinks I'm bad.
My mom loves you, Walt. My mom loves you.
We gave each other a small little smooch.
Yep, after you kissed my mom. Kissed her right on the lips. You mom-kissing bastard. I would never kiss your mom. She's too powerful.
Are you not attracted to powerful women?
I'm not... Dad had a lot of VHS tapes of stuff he'd recorded before I was born. And we had 2 VHS tapes, and they were trailers, collections of trailers, where Terry, the Trailerman, Terrence, he would come and watch these with me. But they would be trailers of old sci-fi and fantasy movies and old horror movies, probably from like 62 all the way to like early 70s. So the height of like Ray Harryhausen style stop motion animation with live action. And I loved watching those over and over again. And it had awesome stuff. It had, what is his name? Flash Gordon with Ming the Merciless, which is probably kind of a racist character now. He's got some like evil Asian man vibes.
So he is me.
No, you wish you were Ming the Merciless. You wish you had that chutzpah. No, but there was another one about this guy who shrinks down, and he has like a sewing needle as a weapon, and there's like a part in the trailer where this cat is like trying to kill him. And it's just like, clearly they recorded like a cat going after like a little mouse toy, and then they just like superimposed this guy like cling, 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 like blocking this cat's attack. Or Attack of the Giant Gila Monster, which is a great movie where they just had like a giant... Do you know what a Gila Monster is?
No. Should I guess?
Yeah, guess. It's a real thing.
I'm guessing it's when a famous person is hanging out at a party and there's a bunch of people who are walking around that famous person like orbiters in a heliocentric way, and it creates a chutzpah that's bad because no one likes orbiters.
There are so many things wrong with that statement. First of all, chutzpah it's not an energy. Chutzpah is like moxie. It's like your get up and go. You're like your personal power. So that's wrong. Second of all, why would that be what the movie's about? It's Gila Monster spelled Gila, I think, or Gilla.
So Gala monsters.
It's just a giant. It's just a big lizard. They're out in the desert. They have like really fat tails.
Oh, I just watched a movie with them from Treasure of Sierra Madre. And I only watched that film literally 2 weeks ago, so I just learned what a Gila monster is. These things were like considered super poisonous by like all these people on the West, but it actually wasn't. But they were so paranoid about them, they would kill them all the time.
Apparently they are venomous.
But they're super slow, so they're like not dangerous at all, really.
But so basically, I can't remember the plot of this movie. The Gila monster gets like irradiated, I think, and it becomes giant. So they just record this Gila monster like walking around, and then like do like the old school movie magic with the actual cellophane to like have it like bust its head through the door and stuff like that. But so one of the movies on there was this movie called Jack the Giant Killer, which is the movie I watched this week. And I've not been feeling super great. I've been feeling a little under the weather from the NyQuil debacle, but just in general, my body's not up to snuff, and I'm tired. It'd been a long day at work, and I just like snuggled down, and it was the most comfy movie I've seen in such a long time. And so that's like the first thing I want to talk about is the comfortability of this film. For me, it's this genre, this like early 60s like fantasy action. Especially when they have like the stop motion animation. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the stuff I absorbed as a child. And that's like most of the reason why it's comfy is I remember these. I remember being in comfortable spaces when I watched them. But now as an adult, when I watch them, I can like pick out the things that represent that comfiness to me. And one of them is the soundtrack. These older movies, like 60s and 70s movies, especially these like movies that are made by big production companies, the soundtrack is so present. Like in this movie, like it's a string quartet, it's an orchestra. Like this is just like music made for the movie in your face in comparison to the soundtracks of like more modern stuff, where almost like the soundtrack is like hiding a little bit. But this soundtrack, man, is just like sweet adventure music.
I agree. In modern movies right now, a lot of these sort of film techniques and film stuff is more hidden because that's the philosophy. The better editor, the better special effects, all of it, not just music, it means you're better at hiding it. Personally, for me, I miss it when it's easy to catch. I think it's fun. There's like something in your brain that feels good about catching the obviousness of it. I think immersion is overrated. There's something nice to not be immersed.
One of the things that's really interesting about immersion is you're supposed to, the emotions that you have when you're immersed in a film feel like they're coming from you internally. So like in Rob Zombie's Lords of Salem, where music
Hey, by
is
the way,
central...
I also think Anna Karina is really cool.
Oh, you're finally going to mention her on this podcast? After what, 17 episodes? Fucking loser.
I feel like I have to find someone that I can mention every single fucking moment because you have your go-to mentions. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre and it's fucking Rob Zombie.
No, these are just people who just shut the fuck up. Let me finish my thought, you fucking bastard. Okay, so there's this scene in Lords of Salem where there's a witch character who's basically just in a corner, and there's no jump scare, there's no music sting. The camera just pans as the main character walks out of the room, and there's a witch in the corner. There's no impetus on the movie to tell you that it's there. Like, it's not like the movie's like, look, but because it's a big part of the screen, you can see it. But when you see it, it feels like you've noticed it, and that's where the scare comes from. In these older movies, the music is there to tell you how to feel. And I think that's what's so comfortable about it, is there's no legwork. Like when Jack and Jack the Giant Killer is like fighting these monsters, and it's like, ba 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 ba, con qua, ba 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 ba, ba 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 qua, it's just like, oh dude, it's sweet action, right? It's almost a little bit like video game music, where it's like telling you how to feel instead of like tricking you into feeling a certain way.
By the way, I do think video games are like getting more and more into trying to hide it too.
Oh yeah, I mean when you play, I've been playing Elden Ring and I suck at it so bad. But when you play Elden Ring, like the music, you don't notice the music except for when it's like boss time, and then again you're so focused.
It's like in Mario, you can literally fucking stop at any place and be like, "Wow, I'm really enjoying this beat."
Yeah,
when you're fucking battling an Elden Ring boss, it's like I can't enjoy this beat because I'm fucking fighting the boss.
It's like so asshole clenching. It's like, oh no, I don't know, this movie. I like almost wish I could have watched it with my dad. He was asleep, so I couldn't. But I like, this is one of those movies. I don't know, so comfy. I like wanted a cup of coffee and like to be in a blanket, just like comfortable out. So what is the comfy movie for you when you're feeling down? Is it rom-coms?
It is rom-coms, but it's also slice of life. And if we talk about what you're talking about, obviously my rom-coms are a little more modern, but technically out of all the modern movies, rom-coms and slice of lives are like the most manipulative fucking films out there.
That's true.
Right? They're pretty fucking manipulative.
I mean, I think they're up there with horror movies. They just manipulate different things.
The Girl Who Leapt Through Time is a good example. That's one of my favorite movies of all time and very comfy film that I really love. After they've made you laugh at the end, when they start wanting to make the drama heightened and want you to be sad, everything there is to tell you should be sad.
And I think actually that's why I don't gravitate towards slice of life is similar. I don't gravitate towards slice of life films because it's like a little too much. I do slice of life for reading, like manga and comic books and like short stories and fiction. Rom-coms aren't comfy to me. I guess I have like such a complicated relationship with like love. And okay, let me fucking say that again so I sound like the fucking edgiest loser.
I just don't understand why no one loves me.
No, lots of people love me. You love me, right?
Of course I do. That's why we met through 4chan, baby.
That's why we met through 4chan. Fuck off.
No, you don't have to justify why you don't like rom-coms.
No, I wanted to point out something, which is that this movie, like Jack the Giant Killer, when it wants to make you feel things, it wants to make you feel pretty simple emotions, like, oh, wizard bad, oh no, princess in danger, oh no, Jack save princess, right? Like really basic stuff. With these rom-coms, love is like so complicated to me that I get frustrated when when the movie wants me to like, oh look, it's happily ever after, and I'm like, fuck off. That's not how it works.
Dude, that's the thing though. Whenever I get to those happy endings, I always feel like a tinge of sadness with that happiness.
Okay.
And that is like the ultimate comfy feeling.
See, I don't want that. I don't want that. That says so much about who we are.
I like feeling a bit sad through happiness.
If I want to be sad, I'll just go look at the mountains. I don't need...
Dude, nature doesn't make me sad. It just makes me bored.
Mountains are like the ultimate emotional sponge for me. I can like look at the mountains and just think about something and I'm instantly feeling the most of that emotion that I can. If I just want to be sad, I could just go look at the mountains. Or if I want to be like super happy, and like I just go look at the mountains. But I also want to talk about sort of the movie itself. So it's like based off of some like old Finnish folktale or some shit. I don't know.
It says Cornish.
Whatever the fuck that is.
You don't know what Cornish is?
It's some flavor of European, right?
No, it's when Columbus came to America and then they gave each other the corn, right?
Ah, the maize.
And then
yes,
he killed
yes.
them all. That is the tale, though, because there was one moment of happiness the white people like to tell, and that one moment of happiness is called the Cornish fairy tale.
Is this the cancel police? Oh, are you here to cancel Walter for making light of the plight of the Native Americans? Yeah, I think that's cool. You wanted to dress? No, so what is Cornish, Walter, for real?
I have no idea.
Okay. So in this like way that we do the podcast, this would be where you like pull up the Wikipedia page and tell me.
Oh, I have the Wikipedia page up, but I don't have a blue hyperlink for Cornish and don't understand how to find it.
Okay. No, but so basically there's this evil wizard named Pendragon and he wants to rule over all of England. And so he decides that he's gonna like marry the princess. And Jack the Giant Killer is like, Walter and I were talking, I think last night about stuff, and he asked me about Appalachian stuff, because Walter doesn't really have a frame of reference for that. And the reason this is interesting is that the Jack fairy tales, a lot of them came over with the Scots-Irish who ended up living in Appalachia. And so they have the Appalachian versions of that, Jack tales, where like instead of it being like a giant who's like, oi, my boy, boy, they have like Appalachian language and stuff like that. So this is an old school folk tale about Jack the Giant Killer. And of course the princess gets captured by the evil Pendragon. And then Jack has to go on an adventure in a boat to kill them. And he meets a Viking along the way who helps. And he meets a little boy along the way who helps. And he meets this magic leprechaun trapped in a jar who speaks in rhymes, who's fucking awesome.
That's literally just you.
What do you mean? I'm the rhyming leprechaun? You say I'm here to rhyme all the time? Is that a crime? Is that a crime that I do rhymes all the time, Walt? Is it fine? Or are you gonna whine?
I'm gonna whine.
Okay. Well, I think it's divine, you fucking swine. Give me a laugh for that, Walt. Come on, you know that was a good bit. Come on, give me a pity laugh. But, so this movie is of that era that has the stop motion animation, and like people drawing directly on the cellophane. Like on the stuff to like make the stuff happen on screen, which is like my absolute favorite.
Okay, so you're just saying that special effects is someone drawing on.
Yeah, which is awesome. There's this like section where, so the giant, of course, is this stop motion, and it's hilarious. As an adult watching, I can really tell how like not great it is done, because whenever you have the shots, there's the shots without the monsters, there's like a pretty traditional depth of field. Everything feels like it's in the correct sequence as far as like distance goes, and then as soon as you throw that stop motion monster up there, traditional depth of field, and then like just a wall, it like looks it's so obvious. But the monster has like goat legs, and like the animation is pretty hilarious, and I almost feel sorry for this monster because he's just a giant. And Jack kills him, and it's kind of like he's just being a giant and listening to an evil wizard.
Yeah, he probably thinks the evil wizard is his best friend.
Yeah, something like that, right? I mean, clearly he's not very smart. He's just a giant. It's like killing an animal. One of my favorite monsters are these witches. They're just these sea witches who attack Jack when he's like escaped with the princess. They're just people in costumes with these like horrible fish masks. It'd look really silly if it weren't for the fact that they've drawn, like, with all these crazy highlighted lights all over the cellophane. So, like, when they're moving around and stuff, it looks like they're, like, flashing and stuff like that. And there's this one fucking awesome witch that's got, like, a giant, like, alligator-ish mouth and just a bunch of steam and smoke shoots out of his mouth that's supposed to be the wind. And so all this wind starts blowing on the ship. All these dudes are like flying out of the ship, but they have to like kind of jump out to make it look like they're flying out. And Jack is like a really good physical actor. The actor's doing this. So he's like trying not to be pushed back by the wind, but is also very like, if you look closely, you can see he's like doing the acting to make himself fly back and stuff like that. It's a phenomenal scene with all this crazy like light stuff going on, drawn onto the characters. And then also they have a filter on the camera in general, so everything's like pink but also like stormy, and it's so great. I think my favorite scene in the entire movie is the ship scene, because you just got all these crazy witches just like being like and like shooting hand-drawn lightning bolts like out of their scepters and stuff like that. So awesome. But the last thing I want to talk about is the princess herself, because when the movie starts out, she's just like a super cute redhead, like kind of flat character who's in danger. And I was like, oh man, she's kind of boring, whatever. Then she gets kidnapped by Pendragon, and he has this staff called the Staff of Isis. And he like hypnotizes her into being evil, and she like transforms. They make her skin like just like pale green, and give her these like super sexy dragon eyes and this like giant like headdress and these like super intense eyebrows, dude. She acts her ass off. It is awesome. Going from like this meek-mannered princess who's like, oh, I'm in danger and I love you, Jack. I wish we could be together, to being like, oh, I'm now an evil witch who's tricked you, Jack. You fool, you idiot fool. I love Pendragon. It's so good, dude. It's so fucking awesome. As it turns out, the reason Pendragon finds out where the princess is he's also turned the princess's lady in waiting into a witch. And the way to break the witch curse is to make the witch look in a mirror and then break the mirror, and they're like freed of their evil witch powers. And so it does this early in the film. And you're like, that's weird. That's wild. And then like a few scenes later, she gets turned into a witch, and you're like, oh man. So that's like going to be a thing now. So like it's not like foreshadowing, but it's setting up a world, which I thought was pretty cool. It was like a really like nice little like world setup and stuff like that. But the villain himself is easy. I mean, he's awesome. He's got these like sweet evil eyebrows. He's bald. He can do all this different magic with his eyes. Like one of the things he does is turns people into animals. He also transforms into this like giant half rat, half dragon thing at the end to fight Jack. This movie, I don't think is as good as Jason and the Argonauts. I think that's my favorite of like this era's like animation movies, action. Or Ymir from the Deep. That's another one I absolutely love. That's more of a monster movie.
What of the Deep?
Oh, it's called 2 Million Miles to Earth.
20 million miles to Earth.
20, I'm sorry, numbers are hard for me. It's a great one. It's awesome because the monster Ymir like starts, if I remember correctly, he starts out as this like little guy, but he like escapes from the little containment and like turns into this like giant monster. And the claymation is like super good. And the monster himself, because he's really the only thing that's claymation-ified, there's like a lot of attention to detail for who he is. It's fantastic. So I also grew up watching Godzilla and like those kind of monster movies. And one of the things that makes it so different from those movies is you see the monster interacting with the people in a very different way, because with Godzilla movies it's dudes in suits, so you can't have like Godzilla pick up a woman in the same way, or a man and bite his head off. It just won't work with the way the scaling is set up and with like the way the movies are being shot. So it's like a very different experience seeing these movies. Like it's weirder. There are different weird things about, because the Godzilla movies are weird. There's like weird stuff in them too, or all those like rubber suit monster movies.
Now that you mention it, Jack and the Giant Beanstalk, whoever fucking came up with that myth must have been high on crack.
So, I mean, if you want to get to the meat of it, Jack as a character outside of this film, the Jack archetype is like the trickster hero.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought of it like that.
He's the one who's prepared for anything, right? So, of course, the Beanstalk is fantastical, but Jack is prepared to deal with it. And he doesn't usually win. I mean, in this movie, he wins by sword, but traditionally, Jack, he wins by smarts. He does a lot of tricking. There's a one from like Appalachian Jack Tales about a guy who like tricks Jack. I can't remember exactly how he does it, but he goes to like work for this giant and he like tricks her into marrying her daughter. He tricks the giant into marrying his beautiful daughter by like doing a really bad job at these jobs. And then when the giant goes to do them, he like cheats and does the job really quick. And the giant's like, I thought you didn't do the job. He's like, no, I did. It was super easy.
How does that make the giant marry his daughter?
Because he's like, if you can do all these tasks, you can marry my daughter, boy. I don't know. I mean, I can think of more, right? Like Herschel and the Hanukkah goblins. That was like a story that was told to me a lot, where like Herschel wants to like go light the candles in this little village. He's a rabbi, a wandering rabbi, but he can't, because the goblins get super butthurt if he tries to light the menorah, and so no one in this village celebrates Hanukkah. And so Herschel keeps tricking the goblins into doing stuff so that he can light the candles. So like the first one is this tiny little goblin who shows up. The goblin's like, you aren't allowed to light the candles. And he's like, I'm so big, I'll crush you if you don't let me. And the goblin's like, oh yeah, how so? And so Herschel takes a hard-boiled egg and crushes it and says, look how easy that was. And then the goblin's like, I bet I could do that. And then Herschel takes a rock that's the same size and shape of a hard-boiled egg and is like, oh, try to crush this. And the goblin can't. And he's like, oh, you'll crush me. And so the goblin flies away and Herschel's tricked the goblin. And there's another goblin who shows up who like really loves pickles. And Herschel's like, well, before I light the candle, do you want a pickle? And the goblin puts his hand in the jar and can't take the pickle out. Because his fist is closed and it won't fit out of the pickle jar. And the goblin's like, I want a pickle, but I don't want to be stuck in this. And Herschel's like, well, if you don't let go of the pickle, you will be stuck. And the goblin gets so mad that he explodes.
I mean, I'm not stupid, dude. I know some of these trickster stories.
Did I hurt your feelings, Walt?
Hansel and Gretel is one.
Yes, exactly.
So is Little Red Riding Hood.
I think some of these like Jack tales are more about someone being able to be prepared for anything. I think the trickster character tends to come from a group of people who are being marginalized at that moment, right?
That's so weird. Maybe it's like my parents or whatever. They don't want me to hear these trickster tales. But I feel like a lot of the tales I grew up was all about hard work, loyalty, and virtues. So this like trickster character is like such a fucking like non-hero.
See, and the trickster is like a very huge Western archetype, and it's not just European stuff. A lot of the a lot of the famous like folk stories that like show up in African American mythology during like Reconstruction, but even before Jim Crow, are these like characters who get one over on the whites, right? Like Brer Rabbit is one.
I wouldn't be surprised if my parents actually just did a very kind of subconscious job of like, okay, we don't want our sons being tricksters, so let's not tell these stories.
It might not be your parents, it might just be like the way things go, right? So for instance, like, because there are a lot of American folk heroes that are not tricksters, right? That are like so. Do you know who John Henry is? Do you know anything about John Henry?
Not really. I know Paul Bunyan.
John Henry was a steel driving man. and his whole thing was like using his own body to like drive in nails into train tracks. So he's like from that era of like Western train expansion, and his whole big story is this guy wanted to use a machine to drive the nails, and John Henry was like, "Nah, I can do it better as a person," and everyone's like, "No, the machine will do it." And so John Henry challenges the machine, and he does a way better job, but at the end he dies, right? But it doesn't matter because of his hard work and his determination and his power, right? Paul Bunyan is very similar, right? Paul Bunyan doesn't trick people. He's just like a champion.
I'm surprised more people don't want to have sex with Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
He's a giant. He's hardworking. It's like the prime subject for someone who has like a giant fetish or even a dominant man fetish, you know?
Why does everything have to come back to sex with you, huh? Why can't we just talk about mythology? Why can't we just talk about legends?
Okay.
No, but I think Jack is an especially important trickster character in the West because he is, I mean, he's always lower class. He's always at a lower echelon of class. He's never rich. He's always kind of like, just like barely scraping by.
No, this is a really good point. I do think as I was growing up, I always did not like Jack because I didn't think he deserved to win. And yeah, maybe someone like me will be like, well, that's because he cheated. But it had to be a class thing. Because I came from such a good class.
Good class.
I didn't want poor people to win.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want poor people from the bad class to win.
Jesus.
No, I'm literally telling you the psychology of it. I'm not fucking mincing words here that like telling you that
was your
like,
process as a child.
It is fucked up. I'm not saying it isn't. I came from a good class. These people who are undeserving are coming here and winning by being cheats.
Right.
And Jack was a big representation of that when you would read his story. And I think that's why I grew up not liking him, which is fucked up.
Yeah, Appalachia is like, you know, kind of an impoverished area. It has been for a long time. It was doing fine as like a space, and then the new Green Deal happened and kind of like fucked everyone over, which is not to say that the Green Deal was like not terrible, but it did introduce the concept of poverty to a group of people who were kind of just living off the land. And then the mining industry came in and fucked over Appalachia again. But so, you know, it predominantly poverty-stricken place. It makes sense that the Jacktails would do so well over there, right? Holler smarts is a term in Appalachia, right? The idea of like, you know, education and intelligence not based off of like the amount of time you spent in school, but just like your knowledge as someone being on the land and like developing solid common sense. Here's the last thing I'll say is I think you kind of have to trick nature. You can't just win nature. Nature's not something that you can like necessarily beat realistically, right? Unless you're like Paul Bunyan, who's a giant. And then unless you have the character who can beat nature, and then that's his big deal, right? Like Pecos Bill, his whole thing is he's from like the American West. His big story is that he put a lasso around a tornado and like threw it away. And his whole thing is that he was capable of defeating nature.
Let's explore a little to see if my hatred towards Jack was really just my fucked up brain, or that there might actually be a little bit of cultural stuff going on. Who do you think is a good trickster character in Japanese manga?
Trickster characters are like in gambling manga who are capable of like getting one over to help everyone out.
Gambling manga is like, it's about gambling. They're never meant to be heroes already.
Well, but what about aren't the kitsune like trickster spirit archetypes?
Yeah, we're talking about heroes, dude. Let's talk about someone who outsmarts a lot of people in Naruto, Shikamaru, right?
Shikamaru, great character. Probably my favorite Naruto character.
He does a lot of tricking and a lot of that stuff, but somehow it doesn't feel like Jack.
So the difference between Shikamaru and Jack is Shikamaru is using his intelligence and his ninja power to like defeat people. Jack is like literally just trying to make it through the day usually, and he's trying to like climb the class ranks. Or he's like totally ill-equipped, right? Like when he goes to rescue the princess, he doesn't have a magic sword necessarily. And when he does get a magic sword, it's because of like something smart he did, right?
Maybe using manga and anime is a bad example too, because I'm not gonna lie, I do think there is a bit of today we don't love trickster characters. Now, I'm not saying we don't love Jack. I'm saying like today we don't create many trickster heroes today.
I think some of that has to do with how it can be displayed, right? Like Jack's stories are always hyper oral. They're not even great when you read them. Jack tales are best told out loud. Like that's most of my interaction with Jack tales as like a little kid was like hearing people tell me them. Like Jack tales are so much about dialogue, so much about statements, so much about riddles.
Or it could just be modernity has gotten really, or capitalism or modernity has gotten really, really sinister and has depleted people who come from a unfair environment to even dream about just using smarts to make it through the day.
That's true. No, the narrative of escaping poverty these days is not like getting one over on everyone else. It's like either working through the ranks or going against the system, right? Because Jack is a little bit of a dick. It's not like everyone else in the village gets to live happily ever after. It's Jack and the princess.
No, I think this is super cool. I never thought of Jack like that, so which is on me, and I do think it had to do with a lot of class. But that's why I asked about the Asian stuff.
I just don't have enough exposure because I don't think it's fair to compare Jack with like Ichigo. I don't think they're the same.
How about Yui from K-On?
I would love for someone to remake Jack Tales with the K-On girls.
Dude, imagine the music Jack would make.
Dude, it'd be but this is, I mean, you know,
Beanstalk!
No, it'd be much cuter. It'd be like dun 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 beans, dun dun beans, beanstalk, beans. Mentioned Terry Trailerman Terrace earlier. He actually wanted to come. Are you okay with him coming to talk on the podcast?
Yeah. Are you leaving?
I can't record while he's here, right? Because he needs to use the microphone. So just give me a second. Hey, Terry. Yeah, what? Yeah. All right, come on. All right, come on, Terry. It's time for your bit. Oh, I love your bit. Oh, shit, stepping on something. I don't know what the dang old heck that is. Hey there, folks. Oh, let me sit down a minute. Here's Appalachian folkman, Terry Trailerman Terrence himself, back for another trailer update. How you doing, Walrus?
So, were you just listening to the podcast? Because you definitely were not from the Appalachian before.
No, I mean, I'm from Roanoke, Virginia, which is technically part of Appalachia, so, you know.
I'm very excited you're here, honestly.
I'm excited to be here too, Walters. You like anime? You like them dang there animes, Walters?
I do. I like sushi.
You like well, but that's not. Is that an anime? What do you mean? You like anime? What kind of anime you watch, boy?
My favorite is Aria. I also really like Yotsubato. I also really like Shirobako. I also really like Anna Karina. She's super cute.
Anna Karina ain't no anime. She's a French New Wave actress. I've seen every trailer she's ever been in, young man.
Sorry, I just got carried away.
So I recently watched the trailer for Chainsaw Man. You know anything about Chainsaw Man, Walt?
I know it's a shonen manga that has been coming out recently.
My son, Terry Jr., really loved the manga and read all that dang old chapters on his application on his telephone. The trailer, though, is fantastic. The manga has like a real dark shonen kind of energy where, you know, it's got the traditional battle elements, but instead of it being like a triumph of friendship, it tends to be, you know, like pretty dark and violent with characters becoming worse and worse people. The trailer, man, gets that in the tea. It's a very quiet beginning of the trailer. Lots of people having fun, being friends, you know, which is not what happens in the show. And then after about 30 seconds of hard cuts to all this crazy action, fantastic, real dark, Trailerman Terrence gives it a 10 out of 10 on his trailer value. I also won't spoil anything for the show. You can watch it, and it won't tell you anything outside of the tone of the dang piece of media, which I think is really key to a good trailer.
Do you like movie trailers more or TV trailers more, Terry?
I think it depends on what I'm looking for. You know, if I want to watch a trailer that's going to tell me the whole plot of the movie, I'm going to look for a movie trailer. I think TV trailers are usually not that great, but I really like a movie trailer that sort of gives me the tone of the film without telling me anything about it. Usually more involved in the TV shows in general. When it comes, because a TV show, it's hard to sum up an entire television series in a trailer in the same way it is a film.
Wise words from Terry, baby.
Thank you, waitress. You see any trailers you like recently? You see any good trailers?
Yeah, Chainsaw Man's trailer was very good.
That's interesting, because the last time I was on here and I mentioned the trailer for Men, you said your favorite trailer you'd seen was Men. And this time you're saying the one I just talked about was your favorite.
That is interesting. And very normal.
And very normal? You think that's normal?
I mean, as normal as the sun comes up, baby.
Well, Wilbur, I want to thank you for letting me on your dang old podcast. I'm gonna go make 1,000 puppets and sell them on the street, because that's one of my jobs, is making and selling puppets. Thank you so much, Wilbur. Oh, here we go. Oh, gotta stand up. Oh, my leg. Oh, all right. Ready? Come on back in the podcast. All right, yeah, I'm coming, Terry. I'm coming. All right. Oh, man, that guy's weird.
Yeah, I'm super comfortable with him. I think it's improving entirely.
You think you're building a relationship with Terry?
Honestly, I think I'm taking steps backwards. But progress is progress.
Maybe you should like bring a trailer next time Terry brings a trailer.
Oh yeah, I did bring. It's going really well, Swade. Don't worry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, things are going super well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah. It's just going so fucking well. It's just going so fucking well, man. It's going so well, okay?
I'm glad. I believe you. Okay. Gosh.
So, Swade, how much do you even remotely give a fuck about Napoleon and the French Revolution?
So I actually, in high school, one of my professors, we did a whole class on French literature, French poetry, French performance art, French philosophy. We talked a lot about the French Revolution. So I know some of the players. I know Napoleon. I know Robespierre. I know Marie Antoinette. Most of my relationship with French Revolution is the writers of the time.
So you know the guy who got killed in the bathtub?
Yes, whose name I cannot remember, but he's one. So most of my knowledge of French history is actually just the people who were writing during French history. But as far as names and dates, I'm pretty bad at it. Trying to talk about French history. Oh, here's one thing I do know about French Revolution. So Napoleon, the second time he invaded France, was very frustrated because of the way the French had set up the streets to basically make roadblocks, right? France was so tight. The streets were so thin and small, and the buildings were tall enough to where people could set up roadblocks by literally lifting the cobblestones. And Napoleon was so butthurt that he remade France to make it super easy to invade, which is why part of the reason why the French got so fucked over in World War I and World War II is because all of France had been made to be invadable at the wishes of Napoleon.
Yeah, I want to talk about Abel Gance's Napoleon. This movie came out in 1927, and it is 5 hours and 30 minutes long. This movie doesn't even really talk about all of Napoleon's life because Gance, the director, he initially planned for this movie to be the first of 6 films. But then he found the first movie to be so much money and so much work, he was just fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore.
So he didn't get to finish his epic, basically.
The reason why I brought this film, number one, is so that maybe we say enough wrong things so Slough gets triggered and throws his phone on the wall again, so he might have to come back to the podcast.
Yeah, so, dude, I guarantee half that history shit I just said is so wrong, and Slough's De Christos Dominus.
I also learned about French Revolution in Hong Kong. It was taught in our world history class. Usually when I'm taught world history, I understand what is relevant to this sort of narrative they're trying to sell us. That the world started in Rome and Greece and sort of passed along and became what it is today until World War I and World War II, basically. There's this weird narrative trend that makes sense. The French Revolution never made sense to me. It was this random thing that popped up, didn't even become a revolution because Napoleon took over as an emperor, and then it's disappeared. And I was always why are we taught this?
But I think if we want to talk about history, the way the things I took away that my teachers were presenting to me, the things that happened in France during the French Revolution were going to repeat because of its spatial and political makeup. That also the French Revolution, a lot of socialist philosophers, pre-socialist, socialist philosophers, people who were talking about socialist ideas, were looked at by the Russians and the Russians by the French and vice versa. Looking at the French Revolution is comparing it to the Russian Revolution was part of it.
That is why it's so awkward, because the Russian Revolution is not taught to me when I was growing up, because that's not part of that history that they want to teach you. Okay, this is how I would explain it. In middle school, when I was learning history, I was taught in a way that our world was in a great, nice line of progress. The French Revolution was also put into that narrative, but it's an awkward thing to put in because it's an anti-capitalist moment in a weird way that's not really true at the same time.
It's also wild because the people who were taking over in France, it's hard to portray Robespierre and Napoleon both, who were two central figures in the French Revolution, to show them in a George Washington way. Because Robespierre was crazy and invented his own religion based on Christianity, and Napoleon was supervillain style, wanted to create the next Roman, the Holy Roman Empire. It's hard to sell either of those figures as
the heroes that world history wants to sell to us.
Or even people that represent like linear progress, right? The French Revolution is just too weird because of the players and also its space in history, right? Colonialism is also happening during the French Revolution, and so there's like other stuff going on.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, Robespierre was anti-slavery.
Yes, he was. I mean, both Robespierre and Napoleon were not all just bad dudes, or at least that's not how they're sold. Like, you know, when you talk about World War II in the West, it's like mad easy to talk about it because it's like the Nazis and the Russians were the bad guys, the Americans and the British were the good guys. When we talk about the Civil War now, I mean, it's in the US, as you know, it's easy to draw sides, right? Because there were the slave people and the people who were not down with slavery. And like that's like a very easy line to draw.
Okay, so actually I think you really answered what I was like getting at. It failed as a middle schooler. So I never really understood that moment in time very well, and I didn't even understand it chronologically at all because they don't teach it chronologically, because a lot of the chronology would make you realize that there's like some really fucked up shit going on.
Yes.
So they would like sort of miss out on weird chronological things. So watching this movie was like fun to watch the chronology. And I do wish this movie was like completed, like all 6 parts, because it would have been cool to watch, even if it was a biased version.
That would be 30 hours, by the way, right? A 30-hour experience, more or less.
Sure, but like you would watch in the 6 parts. So that's like that's not much different from a fucking year of history class. And you know what it is? I want the biased narrative because that's the easiest way to receive the chronology. Then someone can come into me and talk about the nuance, but at least I have the chronology in my brain so I can know what they're referring. Right now, I can't even have a conversation about the nuance at all because my chronology of this fucking moment is so fucking all over the place. And yeah, I can go through Wikipedia and look at it slowly, but it's not as fun than sitting down and watching a movie that was made to fucking hype you up into a story. So I was talking a little bit about like the French Revolution, bringing up some things into my attention that I didn't know. And there's really 2 big things. Did not know at all until I watched this movie. First of all, the victim ball. Okay, so apparently after the Reign of Terror, there became these huge rumors about anyone who had someone who died at the Reign of Terror would hold these massive balls on the graves of the Reign of Terror relatives, and you would have to prove that you had a relative who died. And like the film made it look like it was just a degen party for sad people, but damn, that's like such a cool rumor to float around. Sad and shitty, but still cool.
But I mean, there's like weird stuff like that in like revolutionary periods, right? Especially, I mean, you want to talk about some weird shit. Talk about fucking post-apartheid fucking shit that happened. Like, so for instance, one of Nelson Mandela's big things was that like you would go on this radio station and you would talk about all the fucked up things you did during apartheid as like a way of absolving, and people would like be like, "You did this to my family," and they'd be like, "Yes." Like there was like a bunch of stuff like that happened in the French Revolution too, just like weird like ways of absolving guilt.
So the other thing I learned about is this thing called the War in the Vendée. Apparently in the movie, Napoleon was like, "No, I'm not gonna fight my own people when other people want to fight us."
Which is not true.
And I was like, what the fuck is this thing? So I went back and looked at it, and apparently it's a revolt that like the English supported, and the French government came in and just massacred a bunch of civilians. They hung like children and women on trees, and it was like a massive amount. And people said it's like the first modern genocide. And I was like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah, this looks pretty brutal, dude. And that's really one of the things in like the French Revolution is it was brutal. It was violent.
Yeah, like I know about the Reign of Terror, but even reading this, I was like, what the fuck? Jesus Christ. Okay, that's probably as much as I'm going to talk about the French Revolution, because I really don't know enough. Once again, Slough, come on the fucking podcast, give us our deets.
Yeah, we'll do a French we'll watch Les Mis. We'll watch fucking Les Mis and talk about this.
Yeah. Instead, I'm going to talk about what it is like to watch a movie from the 1927s before sound and color.
Ugh, boring. Boring.
Okay, first of all, I think these movies get a bad fucking rep about being boring, because I think people go into them with like the absolutely wrong idea. These movies, when people watch them, probably were incomplete half the time. You probably had to go to a very rich theater to listen to some music. Otherwise, you'd be listening to your friend talk over the whole movie the whole time. If you were listening to some music, the second or third time you went, probably the musician was already dead, so he was already making up a new song. If you're going into the movie expecting to watch it like you're fucking there to watch a serious art house movie of today from A24 and fucking whatever Tori, his two directors he loves so much.
Terry Gilliam and
no, I'm talking the ones who like talked about don't go to the movie theater.
Oh, Martin Scorsese and the guy who
yeah. So if you're like that, then of course you have to be a pretentious fuck to watch these movies. If you're like me, you know what I like doing? I like putting on my music and listening to whatever the fuck I want to listen to, just sitting down in a couch, lying down, and just zoning out to fucking 5 hours of great album music and watching this movie.
I just like can't imagine doing that. It's just crazy to me that you're capable of doing that and enjoying it.
Well, it's not much different than like putting on an album and lying in your bed for like 2-3 hours.
See, I can't do that. I need to do something. I can't just sit and listen to music.
Okay, that's fine. If you're not a person who likes listening to music, that can be hard.
I like listening to music. I just don't want to sit for 5 hours and listen to an album.
Yeah, so if you can't listen to music, you can always play video games next to it. You fucking watch Friends all the time and play video games at the same time.
Okay, whoa. I don't watch Friends. What the fuck are you talking about? You mean The Flash? Do you mean The Flash? Whoa.
Okay, The Flash. Sir, The Flash. Yeah.
Don't tell people I watch Friends. That show's bad. I fucking hate that show.
I don't know. They're the same show in my head.
Oh my god!
Single fucking different.
I'm gonna fucking come to Hong Kong and beat you up. I'm gonna make you eat all of Chandler and Joey's body. From Friends.
Dude, you're the one who got referenced fucking Chandler. Now I fucking remember. God damn. I had to like fucking figure out what the fuck your reference was when I was like cutting it. I was like, is this even fucking relevant? I'm so fucking confused. I don't even remember the reference. It's like, I'm a Chandler. And I was like, what the fuck are these guys talking about?
I just want to know what it is, why you enjoy it. That's my question.
Why I like listening to music?
Well, why you like this experience of like zoning out and listening to music while you watch a movie for 5 hours? Like, what is it about that experience that you enjoy?
I don't know, because I like listening to music, and I like sometimes giving music a very serious listen. I like having moments of being able to pay attention to music. I don't want to do it all the time, but I don't want to never do it.
I do sort of get that. One of the coolest things I remember doing in high school was like helping put on a live scoring of the Golem, Der Golem, the old German one, and we did it in the lobby of an art museum. But it was awesome. They brought in a band and like played music while we watched the movie to like score the film. It was so cool. They've done it with Nosferatu.
Yeah, well. Dude, that would be fucking mind-blowing. I get finding a 5-hour long movie really, really like long. But you don't have to watch this movie in 5 hours. You could have done it in a few parts and it would have been completely fine too, you know? And imagine like doing 3 days of just dinner, movie, 3 parts, live band. Fuck yeah, dude. That'd be so cool. These movies are just so much more based on community and based off like you feed off the audience too. So yes, while I'm doing it alone, am I feeding off the audience? No, it's not the same. But I think I am justified to enjoy them in a very unique way that I want to enjoy them instead of the sort of rules that today's movies give you. And I think these movies still retain that energy because they were made with that in mind. So what about this movie in particular that I like? I mean, it's not that different from what you talked about with the OST in Jack and the Giant Killer, because the editing in Napoleon is just like a little too obvious. A good example, when the Reign of Terror scene is happening, Napoleon is sailing on a ship back to France. There's like a storm happening. So he's like on a boat and it cross cuts to the Reign of Terror with Danton. So it's Robespierre, the guy who died in the bathtub.
Oh, Robosphere, yeah. Robosphere is my favorite character in the French Revolution.
Yeah, it's those 3 guys who are like the big ones. Okay, at least from my understanding of the mythology. When Danton was murdered, that was like the big moment where people were like, fuck you, Robosphere.
Fucking Christ, Robosphere. Robosphere. The problem with Robosphere is that he kept using his men for fuel. His like machine heart would open up and suck out all their blood to fuel his robo powers is a problem.
This would be a great porn movie of the Reign of Terror.
Did you say porn?
Robosphere. Yeah, Robosphere XXX, and it's like the Reign of Terror, but it's also like porn.
It's not porn. It's not porn. You know what? I'm banning you from the podcast. I want to talk about a cool robot that pulls out people's blood to make it be powerful. Not like, oh, I can't wait to see this giant robot sphere. Fuck Marie Antoinette, you bastard. Every bit. You want to put your penis in every bit I do.
I want to put it in my own bits.
You do. You want to put your bits in my bit. Jesus Christ. Oh, Robosphere, you've been
So here comes Napoleon fucking sailing into France, and his boat is rocking, and it cuts to the Reign of Terror. So, like, obviously, the Reign of Terror is being compared to a big storm. A big storm is coming. So this film, I recognized very quickly that it had a lot of, like, shaky movements, and I was thinking to myself, like, what the fuck? Is this normal in old movies and I just didn't notice? And obviously it was not normal, and this guy really cared about making his movies shaky. There was this one cut that I found was super fun when it was doing shaky stuff. It cut with that boat roller coaster.
Yeah. The swinging pirate ship thing.
I have known a lot of people around me who say they don't like them because they make them nauseous.
What makes me nauseous is if I'm trying to read while something's moving, or if my glasses are dirty enough to where I can see my glasses. Those are the two. I've been on some spinny rides. I like them, and they don't make me too nauseous.
Still, the fact is, I am more Chad than you because I would not throw up.
Dude, do you remember when we were with your whole family or just your brother?
My brother, but that was fucking drinking, dude. That has nothing
that
to
was
do
one of my
with
favorite bits, dude. We went to this party for one of my friends, one of our friends, like 21st birthday party probably. Walter will never admit this, but he was like very clearly very anxious. He had some social anxiety going.
Why would I never admit this? I say if I'm telling that story, I start that story like that. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I thought you would pretend to be a Chad about it.
What is there to be a Chad about in this story, dude? Where's the Chad stuff? Where's the Chad stuff? I went to this huge party and it was super fucking busy. And I didn't know enough people, and there was too many people there that I did know that I didn't know how to talk to. So I felt really fucking anxious. So I decided to fucking overdrink. And my brother asked someone if he was black when he's like a little white passing. And that guy got really offended.
Oh, I don't remember this because I was pretty drunk too. But I remember you kept trying to steal things from the party. And one of the things you were trying to steal was a bottle of salsa. And I was like, well, you can't take the salsa. And you're like wobbling on your feet. And like, yo, what if someone put vodka in the salsa? What if someone put vodka? I want to drink the salsa. I'm like, well, just leave the salsa. No one put vodka. Oh, come on. Cool, man. But yeah, I just remember you driving. We drove your brother back to the hotel in the Uber. As soon as we get there, you fucking swing open the door, 2 steps out of the car, and are just like, just like, and I was like so proud of you in that moment. I was like, my baby boy, you did not vomit in this fucking Uberman's car. Even though I could tell you were so close to vomiting. Thank you so much. You were a Chad in that moment.
Thanks. I do want to get back to talking about the editing. So it's easy to catch. It's easy to fall in love with because you have like a very easy thing to be like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to fall in love with. This type of cross-cutting. I think if you want to like love editing, you should watch these old movies first. And I'm not saying everyone needs to love editing. Editing is not something that people should fucking strive to enjoy. But if you are like some weirdo who's like, I really want to enjoy editing, watch one of these old movies. It's so obvious and it's so easily done that it's like impossible to miss.
And modern editing tries to hide itself. It's not hidden in these movies, and that is what makes some of the editing so fun. Is it's like it's you can see it
because in some ways these movies have a hard time to do storytelling because their scenes don't run smoothly into one another due to the fact they don't have sound,
and the audience itself doesn't have the lexicon, right, to
yes.
interact with film in the same way, right?
Besides the fact that the editing is very obvious, it is undeniably kind of cheesy because it's dated. But at the same time, that's kind of fun because it's kind of fun to see the sort of cheesy editing that we recognize that happens today and be like, holy fuck. They existed back then. Here's a good example, because we love RoboPeer.
His name's Robosphere, and he uses the blood of his soldiers.
So when they introduce him, there's like this dialogue card that flashes that goes, 3 gods. And then they show Danton, and then they show the guy who died in the toilet bowl, and then they show Robosphere, right? So this is something I also learned from the film. Apparently Robosphere always wore these like green tinted glasses, but in this movie they look like sunglasses, but it's like goggles styled. So they close-upped on him with his glasses while he was sitting in a cool pillows. I don't know, it's just a fucking fun thing to see because I feel like a badass character with sunglasses is like one of the biggest close-up introductions you can do. And I was laughing so hard when I saw that scene. Yeah, also, you know, this movie had a downloading scene, which is crazy because computers haven't even...
A downloading scene?
Yeah, computers haven't existed yet. You know how, like, when Dexter is, like, fucking on his computer and, like, getting information and there's, like, his eyes go blank and it's, like...
It's code? Yeah.
So this film had this moment where, like, Napoleon is, like, looking at a map and then it suddenly flashes into, like, calculations and, like, random, like, stuff. So yeah, I was like, what the fuck, holy crap, I can't believe that existed since fucking
Wait,
then.
sorry, I was looking at chimichurri sauce recipes.
Yeah, I don't think you're paying attention to me, which is like great.
I am now, I just had to figure I'm hungry, so I was thinking about what I was gonna grill today on the grill.
Oh, don't worry, I'm going on for one more hour.
You know what you are? You're a little bean of hate. That's what you are. You're a hate bean. Fucking, I wish Robosphere was real so he could come and use your blood to power his war.
Alright, fine. Last thing we can talk about. What do you want to talk about Robosphere? Is he your new boyfriend?
I don't want to talk about Robosphere. I don't like you to bring this negative energy into the play space with me and Robosphere.
I can't believe we had to rush that though, because you kept wanting to fucking look at recipes about your fucking strawberry cakes. It's almost like you were Celine who needed to go to their fucking Uber.
First of all, I was looking at chimichurri recipes for steak. For steak, not cake. Dude, look, here's my problem with your movie, was that it was 5 hours long. I don't like watching movies that are that long. I don't even like a movie that's 2 hours long. Like The Batman, I loved watching it. 3 hour long. Too fucking much. Give me a movie that's like an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes. That's like my ideal length.
And yet, Swade can't watch a movie that's 12 minutes long.
Are we doing this now? Are we gonna air our dirty laundry? You fucking bastard. You fucking stupid motherfucker. The reason I didn't watch your 12-minute short for the podcast was not because it's too short, like that I couldn't even sit through it. It's that I'm not sure I'd have enough to talk about in 12 minutes. What's this thing called so our viewers can look at it? It's 12 minutes long.
I don't know. If I do tell you the name, do you think you'll feel embarrassed? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't think the movie is uninteresting to talk about.
Okay, never mind. We're just gonna keep Walter's movie a secret. Fucking weird little secret boy.
You know what it is? You care too much about plot. That's what it is.
You don't care enough about plot, you bastard. Oh, let me just watch a movie that's like swirling colors for 7.5 hours.
Do you feel like if a film has no plot, you can't talk about it properly?
No, I can talk about a movie with no plot.
Yeah, that's what. Then why would a short be hard to talk about?
Because there's just only 12 minutes to talk about.
Okay. I don't know, the theme of the movie doesn't even take the whole 1 hour and 30 minutes of the movie.
I'm gonna watch this 12.5 minute movie. You have to watch King Kong for next episode. That's what we're doing. Decided.
No,
Swade has decided.
No, not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Then you're kicked off the podcast.
Okay, then I'll get kicked off the podcast.
You're kicked off the podcast? Me and Terry will do a podcast. How do you feel about that? Me and Terry.
Dude, I would love that. That would be so fucking funny. No, you can't watch it because you're incapable of it. Watching
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it. No, I'm gonna watch it.
You just can't. You have too many rules about the time and the length. You need
I'm gonna watch it
something that is from an hour and 30 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes.
An hour and 15 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes. Well, hour 15 to an hour 45.
I bet even if you watch it, you wouldn't have watched it.
What does that even mean?
Because you're just incapable.
What does that
I don't know what it means, but you
I'm
put yourself with these rules, and now you can't get out of them.
I'm gonna write this down in my notebook, my Walter's Revenge notebook, and next time I see you, I'm gonna say, hit Walter with a stapler so that he gets a staple in his body because of that bit on the podcast with the 12-minute short. Do we have anyone we need to thank? Come on, where are our 5 stars, by the way? We need that cheddar. We need my belly to get slapped. Give us 5 stars.
We did get 2 more stars on Spotify recently, so that was
did we really?
Nice.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
First of all, it's not a surprise we haven't got a shout out for a new episode because some fucking idiot did not
I forgot to tweet out the episode.
Did not do any of the social network
I forgot to tweet it out. I've been busy.
But we did get a comment about one of our episodes before where they were actually incredibly convinced about Point Break after that.
Yes.
So, Lee, you really sold Point Break to someone. So we hope to have you back again so you can give us another one of those good old 10-minute rants of yours.
Give this a like, give it 5 stars, send it to all your friends, email us if you want to either be on the show, because we'll just let people on the show, or if you just have stuff to say. Again, follow us on Twitter at fakefilmfans, and then shoot us an email at fakefilmfans@gmail.com. And remember, if you're going to watch a movie, go ahead and do it with the lights off.